Welcome to the Parenting Puzzle Podcast with Dr. Daniela Owen, the podcast where we attempt to solve the parenting puzzle together.
Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of the Parenting Puzzle Podcast with Dr. Daniela Owen. Dr. D, how you doing today?
I'm doing well now that we solved those technical issues that we just were dealing with. Thanks,
Hey.
Jake. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We figured it out,
Figured
and
it
we're good to go. And I think we have a good episode today. I'm excited. We have Jessica coming on. Jessica, thank you for doing this. Welcome into the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Hey, look, we're excited. We're literally doing this podcast to help parents because parenting is hard. And it seems like there's a new challenge, a new situation every day that we want to get through and try to do it in a little bit better way. So we started this podcast 7 months ago with that in mind. Like what information could we get out there to help parents do this whole parent thing just a little bit easier? Because it's going to be hard no matter what we do. So that's why we started it. We've been enjoying doing it. So Jessica, I'll turn it over to you. No further ado. If you want to just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your parenting journey, and then we'll jump right into it.
Sure. So my name is Jessica Gorelick. Before I had kids, I was a teacher and then teacher trainer in New York City. I moved to California when I was pregnant with my first. I now have 3. My oldest just turned 11. And then I have an almost 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. So we are very busy. And I think you kind of captured the parenting journey very well. It's hard. And we're always looking for better ways to do things. And so I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So do you want to jump in and ask your question? And I can see if I can offer some useful advice that might make it a little easier, like we said before.
Yes. So my question today for you is around technology. So my oldest is graduating from 5th grade at the end of this month and will be transitioning into middle school in the fall. And my husband and I have committed to not giving him any tech. And by that, I mean, we have signed the wait until 8th. So we have committed to not getting him a smartphone until after 8th grade. I personally don't want to get him a smartphone through high school if we can manage that. Every year changes a little bit. So we'll see. We also don't want to get him a smartwatch. If at all possible, we move to an area that is sort of semi-rural, suburban, in the hopes that we could have as close to an analog childhood as possible for our kids. And we've always felt pretty strong about our convictions in this, but as we have approached middle school, we've seen that more and more parents are getting their kids some sort of tech. There are a lot of parents in our community who don't want smartphones, but they still have watches and they still have iPads. So they're still chatting. And what we're worried about is the social component for our 5th grader. How can we help support him while still kind of honoring our own hopes to keep him off of tech and ideally out of these chats for as long as possible until he's more emotionally equipped to deal with, some of the issues that come along with technology?
This is such a great question. I really appreciate you asking this. I think a lot of parents have the same question right now, and including Mr. Jake Loop. I also just want to say kudos to you because I can hear that you're making this decision from a place of values. And one of the most important things we can do when it comes to parenting is, number one, label our values, and then number 2, make our decisions based on those values, because then we're choosing things that are consistent with what matters to us and what we care about. And you can instill those values within your family. Your kids don't have to pick up your values, but the more you instill them and talk about them and give rationale for why, the more kids are likely to pick up on them and listen to them and kind of embody those values themselves. So it's wonderful that you're making this choice from a place of values. I would really encourage you, first and foremost, if you haven't already, you very likely may have, but to talk about that value with your kids really in a very straightforward way. I think sometimes parents worry that more questions will come of that. So they say, nope, this is our decision. We're the parents, we decided. And by being able to share why you have these values and the benefits, that also can help your child in those moments when they get frustrated about having something be a little different from their peers. It gives them something to kind of go back to. So I would encourage you to do that. Your question about the impact on your 11-year-old's social life is really valid, right? So kids who have smartphones and smartwatches use these to communicate with each other. That's a reality. It's okay not to give one to your own child. The thing that I would really encourage you to do is to anticipate and problem solve around what's going to come up from this, right? So if kids are communicating, for example, by text about getting together, think about if your child doesn't have a smartphone, how could they be included in that? And kind of think through that with your child, and then have your child talk through that with their friends, or even depending on your own community, if you would talk through it with the parents or have everyone kind of have a conversation about it, but really letting them know, okay, so if you're going to be texting each other about heading to the community pool this summer, you know, my 11-year-old doesn't have a phone, but can you text me about it? Or if they live in the neighborhood, stop by and knock on our door and see if we're available, right? Or are there other ways for them to communicate that they would be able to do? You can even go tech, but lower tech, and do like walkie-talkies with a couple of the best friends. Kids tend to still love walkie-talkies. They make really good quality ones these days that have a pretty long distance range. And so just hit them up on the walkie-talkie. Hey, heading to the pool in 10, you in? Right? And that would be a way to make sure that your child is being included without having them have to have the device, because otherwise the kids are not going to go out of their way. Or you can actually ask your child to talk to their close friends about going out of their way a little. Like, I know you guys are all communicating maybe on Snapchat if they're doing that kind of thing, and you have a text chain going on, but hey, can you actually come over and knock on my door, right? Or how we used to do it when we were kids, let's plan to be somewhere and then just be brave and expect that your friends are going to show up. And if not, have a plan B. So, hey, sounds like your friends are all going to the pool. I don't know what the logistics are for you, but hey, we'll walk you over there and let you hang out with them. And if kids don't show up, we're going straight home, so just come on home, right? Or ask an adult at the pool to call us and we'll come get you, right? So just thinking through, if your child doesn't have technology and therefore doesn't have the same capabilities as their friends, what do they need to know, right? Who could they ask to use their phone? Who should they maybe not ask to use their phone? So educating your child about what the sort of do's and don'ts are for being able to communicate with you first and foremost, and with others with and without a phone, can help them just develop these skills, because it's not necessarily always intuitive and it's still really important. So I read an article several years ago about a parent who didn't give smart technology to their child. They were living in New York City, and all their peers had technology, and the parents just educated their child. So if you need to reach us, you don't have a phone, payphones are kind of not really around anymore these days, go into Starbucks, New York City, Starbucks on every corner, go into a Starbucks and ask the person behind the counter if you can use their phone. And so these kids were able to communicate with their parents in urgent situations by doing that, because it wasn't just a stranger on the street. They figured someone who's working at Starbucks has been trained, they understand, they're safe. And so I feel comfortable having my child communicate with this person. And I thought that was so clever, right? Because instead of the child panicking and not having a way to get in touch with their parents, they knew exactly what to do. And I think it's the same thing that I would encourage you to have your child do, is know what to do to reach their friends and ask their friends explicitly, can I come over and knock on your door? Is that something that I'm allowed to do at your home? Right? Or if I can't reach you, can I have my parent get in touch with your parent? How can we make these connections so that I'm not missing the communications? And then you're able to solve for that problem. And that will help you hold on to your value of not giving into the smart technology. Because I think the thing that can sometimes make it hard is it's not working very well to hold on to your values because your kid is being left out. And now you've got competing values, making sure your child doesn't get left out and not using technology, right? And now you've got a quandary as a parent of which one is more important to me. And if my child's being left out and then they're getting upset with me, ooh, do we just give in and give them the smartphone or the smartwatch? But if you can problem solve around it by sitting down and saying, okay, let's talk through the problem. Don't do it when your child's really upset because they just found out everyone was hanging out and they weren't a part of it because they didn't hear the message, right? Do it when they've calmed down at another time and be able to say, listen, I get it. I hear it. That stunk. I'm so sorry you experienced that, right? So validating the feelings, and then let's talk about what we can do to have this not happen again or to try to avoid this in the future. I'm here to support you. Let's brainstorm. And when you're brainstorming, I would encourage you to be as realistic and also ridiculous as well. Like, let's get one of those old-fashioned cans with a string and put it between them. Like, be silly, because that actually can help promote really good problem-solving ideas when you allow for the kind of ridiculous, silly ones that you're not going to do. It kind of opens the mind to creative solutions.
Jessica, you're not alone on this, because this is not our first conversation around technology and like the different thoughts behind it. And my son's in third grade, right? And so you have a fifth grader. My son's in third grade, and I'm already hearing, hey, my friend has an iPad. My friend has a phone. My cousin has a phone. My cousin has this or that or the other thing, other technology. And I have a similar mindset of you, of not wanting to expose them to those kind of things too early. But I'm already getting the comparison piece of like, my this has this XYZ, why can't I have this? And that's a challenge of one what to say. And then you also have the fear down. I never even thought of this because he's in third grade, but as they get older, are they going to miss out? Like what did they call that? FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Like, so we have that too for our kids, because even as adults, we don't want to miss out on stuff, right? So like, that's a great thought of like, what can I do to make sure that my son, as he gets older, is not missing out on all these things, because we have the values similar to you, that we want to limit his exposure to some things that maybe he's not ready for. And I guess I was curious to dig just a little bit deeper, Jessica, on, so like, you have a family value of limiting technology, right? And I think you mentioned trying to maybe limit some of the content of that group text. You mind sharing a little bit of the why behind not wanting the technology?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, it's my personal experience from when I was teaching. I was a high school teacher in New York City. And even though it was decades ago at this point, there were smartphones when I was teaching, and I saw firsthand the damage that was done when kids who were young and impulsive, as teenagers tend to be, would put things into text, whether it be inappropriate pictures or angry texts or, sort of salacious gossip in writing, which I think, again, with the age, they just weren't experienced enough to know I should not put something that can be permanent into a group chat. And we experienced having to transfer kids out of high schools in 10th and 11th grade, which was incredibly damaging to them socially and academically, because they could no longer stay in school because of the damage that had been done through chats. So, that is one thing that makes me nervous. I also personally worry about sort of the off ramp of some of these things. If we, for example, have a smartwatch for our kid and we can track where he goes, when do we roll that back? Right. So in fifth grade, when he's 11, that feels okay to know where he is. But what about when he's 16? Do I want to know where he is at all times for the rest of his life? Yes, I do. But is that the lesson that I want to teach him, that he always needs me to know where he is and he won't be safe if I don't know exactly where he is? That's not the lesson I want to teach. I want to instill these values so that he can make that decision for himself and understands that he has the autonomy and that it's a big responsibility and that I'm not always going to be there watching him, and he has to make the right choice so that he is safe.
Yeah. And maybe one day he'll make his own choice. Like for me personally, like I share my location with my wife and my dad. Those are two people I share my location with just because if something happens, you want somebody to know like where you are.
Yeah.
So that maybe that's like when he becomes an adult way down the line, he can make that decision like me. Like I'm going to share my location on purpose with these few
Mhm.
people in
Mhm.
case of an emergency. So I'll stop talking now. Go ahead, Dr. D.
No, I just want to highlight one thing that Jessica just said because I think it's so important, which is this piece of independence. And that might be one of your tokens, especially in those moments where your child is
Mm.
probably going to be feeling different from peers, unless you end up with being in a peer group with a lot of kids who are in the same boat. Definitely will make it easier. But in those moments, saying, I want us to develop trust. I want you to develop independence. I believe in you being able to handle this. And I want you to learn for yourself that you can handle it. That's going to feel
Mm.
really good for you. And sometimes we have to say, you just have to trust me because I've lived on this planet longer. But I know that you're going to like the feeling of being able to do things in a certain way and just know that it's going to work out and just trust that it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, knowing that you can problem solve and pivot. And those are life skills that you're helping your child develop. And that I think is kind of implicit in what you were saying as part of your values. So I encourage you to hang on to your values. I encourage you to problem solve through and anticipate. Can't anticipate everything, but as much as you can, just thinking about how kids do use phones and how you use your phone, anticipate in advance so that you can then get ahead of some of the challenges and then work through the ones that come up as they do. Does that help?
It's super helpful. And I feel like you have kind of put into words a plan that we can follow. And I also just appreciate the support. It's good to have experts saying like, okay, this is okay that you're making this decision. This is why, and this is how you can roll it out so that your kid is part of the plan.
I just need to clarify, Jessica, expert. You probably know more than me. Dr. D's the star here. She's the expert. I'm just here to learn as well. That's why I'm here.
Well, I
But
think
hey,
as parents, we're all experts in our kids, right? And it's really
I agree with
helpful
that.
to have this group to come to and bounce ideas off of and get some feedback.
And I loved your question because I do think like this challenge around technology, we're not alone with it.
Hmm.
It's not going away.
Everybody has this issue. I think our parents, even our parents, right, to 20, 30 years ago, didn't have to deal with this as much. Like I had a flip phone when I was 18 years old, right? So like it's a new challenge that parents are facing now more than
Hmm.
ever, and it's going to continue to progress. Like they're going to be coming out with the iPhone 100 probably in the next 10 years, and we have to continue to understand our value system and implement that and make sure our kids understand why. So, Dr. D, you ready for my favorite segment?
I'm ready, Jake.
All right. We got to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. Give me 1 second. You feel like I'd have this down by now, but not really. All right. Can y'all see this, friends?
We can.
Awesome. So I just really wanted to give a quick shout out to our amazing sponsor, Louisiana flag football. We are in the middle right now of the spring season. I'm coaching. Isaac is also playing. So we're actively involved with these guys. They are the largest flag football organization in Louisiana. So if you are looking for a place for your kids to be active, to be in a safe, challenging, competitive environment, check out their website, louisianaflagfootball.com, where you can sign up. And they also have cheerleading and co-ed leads. So we'd highly recommend checking them out. And just thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And without further ado, let's do the last word with Dr. D.
Okay, so Jessica's question is such a good one about limiting technology and being able to stick with your parenting decisions. So first point is parent from a place of values. If you have a value around a decision you're making, it helps you kind of hold on to that and have rationale for yourself or yourselves as parents, and helps you hold on to that plan. And then when it comes to limiting technology, one of the biggest challenges is that if other kids are using technology to communicate, your child might end up being left out of those communications. So anticipating that and problem solving around that with your child ahead of time will help them make some plans with their friends to be included. And any challenges that come up along the way, just not in the moment when your child is upset, but later on when they're feeling calm, go back to that problem solving, think outside the box, figure out a solution so that they can continue to be independent and live in their smartphone free, smartwatch free world and still enjoy the time with their friends. And so just being an active part of this conversation with your child and really being open to going there with them will help you both stay committed to the plan. Good luck.
Thank you.
I think we all need some luck with that one, Jessica. You're not alone. We all need some luck. But before we go, and Jessica, one more time, you were great. Thank you so much for being brave and coming on our podcast. I know it's a little bit different, but we really, really appreciate it. And if you're like Jessica and me, and you're getting some amazing insight and tips that are useful to you, please, please, please like the podcast, share the podcast, send it to all your friends, families, aunties, uncles, anybody. We're on Spotify. Dr. D has an awesome YouTube channel where she gives other tips, like exercise, hug yourself, all kinds of stuff like that. So go check out her YouTube page. And we just want to keep doing this podcast and keep growing the audience. So if you like it, if you get something out of it, share it, like it, comment, and come on the podcast. All right. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. It really helps us out and lets others discover the show.